After a period of mourning for Pope Francis, the process to select his successor will begin early next month. It will see more than 100 cardinals locked away for what's called the conclave, a convention that you may recall was fictionalised in a film of the same name last year. Our Europe editor James Mate has reported on conclaves in the past. He is at the Vatican and joins us now. James, before we talk about the conclave itself, what will the next few days of mourning for Pope Francis look like?
Well, tomorrow morning is the next big sort of moment in this, in that his body is taken from the residence where he lived throughout his papacy and brought here to St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, where it will lie for 3 or 4 days for pilgrims here, tourists here, anyone who wants to come and pay their respects to the Holy Father. The funeral, we now know, will happen on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. We know that many world leaders will come. Donald Trump is coming. We understand President Zelensky is likely to come. There's no word yet from the UK as to what the British representation is going to be. Once the funeral is over, you then have a 9-day official period of mourning, the novendiali they call it. And after that, the conclave can start, which puts that at maybe the 4th, 5th of May, that 135 cardinals will gather here in the Sistine Chapel and select the next pope.
And how does that work, the conclave?
Well, they meet, they start a process of discussion, they have votes. The votes, of course, traditionally are written on pieces of paper, and if there's no conclusion, they are burnt in a little oven. Anyone who's seen the movie will have seen this, and Robert Harris researched the book very, very well, and that is, although it's all very secret, that is by all accounts pretty much as it happens. The ballot papers are burnt and black smoke produced, meaning they have no result, until eventually, after it can be a few, and can be very, very many. These conclaves have lasted weeks before now. You come to a consensus and someone wins that ballot. And then, of course, from a little chimney just beside St. Peter's here, white smoke appears. The cry Habemus Papam goes up. We have a pope, and the new pontiff takes over.
So in your opinion, the film is a depiction that is focused on reality of what actually happens in the conclave?
Well, obviously the movie required all sorts of dramatic input to make it into a movie, and it may not be in reality quite as exciting as that, or indeed as controversial as that. But yes, it's well researched. The cardinals are cloistered in there. They have no contact with the outside world while this process goes on. There is intense debate. There will be much factionalism between the conservative wing of the church and the liberal wing, which obviously Pope Francis supported and promoted. And of course, many of those cardinals will have been appointed. More than 100 of 135 have been appointed by Pope Francis. So maybe that indicates that he has managed to lay the ground for his successor to be chosen from his wing of the church, if you can put it that way.
This is the third conclave that you have covered personally. What are your memories of the previous two?
Well, I mean, they are dramatic events. You embark on the beginning of them with no idea how long it's going to take. As I say, it's been weeks in the past. The two that I've covered have been matters of 2 or 3 days each time. You wait through the day for regular intervals for the smoke to appear. One of my most striking memories of it is that it's very, very hard to tell the difference between the black smoke and the white smoke. And we have experts here who say, yes, it's white, and you go, oh, really? Okay, great. And then you have to wait for an announcement, and that can take several hours more. The last time when Pope Francis became Pope, the announcement was made by a French cardinal in his late 80s, speaking in quite a weak voice in Latin. And there was some confusion amongst those of us here waiting. I mean, the great cry went up, who? And people said, oh, it's the Argentinian, but it was Jorge Bergoglio, which was obviously Pope Francis' name before he became Pope, he wasn't even the favourite Argentinian, so people sort of assumed it was a different Argentinian. So it was very confusing because nobody had been able to understand the name that this ancient French cardinal had pronounced. But we'll wait and see. But I mean, they're very, very dramatic events. I mean, you know, more than 1 billion Catholics in the world, and this is electing their leader. And as we have seen with Pope Francis, there's no question that not just in the religious field, but in the political field, the choice of who is to be the Pope and what they can do and lead in their papacy is a very significant one politically as well as in terms of the Church.
Yeah, absolutely. Some fascinating detail you've provided there from conclaves of the past. You've touched on this in terms of the main issues for this forthcoming conclave. What do you think will sway the cardinals who will be voting in this big decision?
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to tell. We know there is a conservative wing of the party that disliked what Pope Francis did. It's not completely clear that when they chose Francis that they completely understood how liberal and how reforming he was going to be. There was massive surprise among the Conservatives and the Cardinals when he said things like, "Who am I to judge?" on the issue of gay priests, and would say things like, "I don't know," in response to questions which, you know, a church built on the doctrine of papal infallibility is not what they want to hear from him. And there was also resistance to his attempts to roll back some of the doctrinal changes that his very conservative predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI, had introduced. Now, what we really don't know, though, is we know that Pope Francis put in place more than 100 of the cardinals who will now choose his successor. But we don't know if he was doing that on an ideological basis. A lot of them were sort of outsiders, people from the sort of fringes of the church, chosen more or less for that reason rather than for any ideological purity. So there really is no strong indication where a majority might lie, and indeed what figure they may coalesce around. And you have to be very wary of it. The saying here is, if you go into the conclave as a pope, in other words the favourite, you will come out as a cardinal, because traditionally they do not choose the favourites, the person or people who everyone thinks are the most likely to become Pope, and indeed that was the case last time. I mean, because when Pope Francis, he was very much an outside candidate who came to the fore in the conclave.
And this time round, do we know who those favourites, those front runners are at this stage that may or may not succeed Pope Francis?
Well, yes. I mean, there is. I'm not going to read you a list of names of people you won't heard of, but there's a very leading conservative Hungarian candidate. There are two leading Italian cardinals. It's been a long time now, not since the 1970s, that we've had an Italian pope, and of course, for the 450 years previous to that, all the popes were Italian. So there may well be a feeling that now that is the time, after a significant gap, to go back to an Italian pope. But also, one of the things that Pope Francis did was try and expand the church into areas where it wasn't traditionally strong. I mean, he visited Mongolia, he visited Sudan. So outside of the hotbeds of Catholicism, if I can put it that way, of Europe and South America, he has looked to expand the church much further than that. And it may well be there's a feeling now that that's where the future of the church lies, not necessarily in Europe, and that it would benefit that process if they chose a pope from outside Europe. So and there are leading third world figures third world cardinals from Africa, from Asia, who could be papabile, is the word they use, potential popes.
We shall wait and see. Lots more to talk about in the days and weeks to come, James, but for now, thank you very much. Thank you.